Hello, good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning. For those of you that are new to the group, welcome. My name is Paula Bettenker, and I am the founder of Sacred Interiors Academy. I'm super grateful that you guys are here. Every Tuesday, I do my very, very best to come live and do a training for you guys on something related to your sacred home, interior design from the inside out. We talk about all kinds of inner design, right? About your spirit, your essence, your soul, and then of course inner design for your home in terms of aesthetics, and engaging your senses and creating a sanctuary out of your home. And so I'm really grateful that you guys are here. Welcome. Today we're going to talk about decorating your home with your kids' toys. And this is something that I get all the time and that I have a lot of fun with and that I have played with for so many years, because it actually was part of my journey. Okay, I'm going to backtrack. The beginning of my design journey, started a long time ago, but the beginning of the holistic aspect of my life and the sort of more sacred aspect of my life started when I was trying to get pregnant with my firstborn daughter, who's going to be 10. And so at that time, after going through miscarriage and infertility issues and all kinds of stuff, the holistic lifestyle came to be for me. And I can talk about that another time. But one of the big aspects of raising my children has been Waldorf education. And Waldorf education is basically holistic education. But the reason I came across that education was because when my daughter turned 1 year old, we had this birthday party for her. And I had so many gifts. She got so many gifts. It was insane. She also has a birthday around Christmas time, and so there was so much more than normal because people would give her birthday and Christmas gifts kind of combined. And I had just moved in recently into my dream home on the water with crystal chandeliers and Swarovski crystal kitchen handles, and it was brand new, it was beautiful, pristine. It was just all I ever wanted in terms of interior design. And I started seeing all these plastic, red, blue, yellow, squeaky, noise-filled toys that she got for her birthday. And I went, oh my God, this is the ugliest thing I have ever seen. I hate these toys. They do not go in my house. And I just could not wait to get rid of these toys or find a way to incorporate them into my home. But it seemed impossible to have this plastic big red piece of toy in my marble onyx living room with crystal chandeliers. It's like, this just does not go. So I start my research and I start looking for ideas. I start looking for materials. I start thinking about, why are these toys, first of all, so cheap looking? And then second of all, how can I make them fit into my home? Because fine, if they're cheap or whatever, but she likes it, then that's something. And so I come across Waldorf education. The point I'm making with telling you about Waldorf education is not to convert you into it at all, but it's just to understand that even kids' toys is something that we often don't pay so much attention to. Sometimes when you are in a holistic route, you might start thinking more about the kind of food you put into your body, the kind of materials you use to paint or build your home, and the chemicals and all of that stuff that goes into your home. But seldomly do we think of our kids' toys in that way. So before we tap into decorating with these toys, my first sharing for you is to pay attention. What kinds of toys are you bringing into your child's homes? What kinds of images are you bringing into their home, right? What kinds of messages are these media-filled toys subconsciously creating for your children. And so in Waldorf education, one of the things that I learned a lot about these kids' toys has been, and this will be the first thing I'll share with you as far as, how to decorate. And the first thing is less is more. How many toys does your child have? First of all, before we get into what do you do with it and where do you put it and how do you store it, think about how much do they actually have. And the truth is that they don't need that much. However many you have, I assure you, they do not play with it all and they don't need that much. So that would be my first little tip, is really consider decluttering your kids' room and really, creating a slimmer amount of toys. Having less toys is so important. The other aspect of that, and this is just a Waldorf mom and me kicking in, is open-ended toys are so much more appealing for your child's creativity and for their imagination than toys that are fixed in what they do. In other words, if you have, let's say, I don't know, what can I think of? Just to say a remote car, right? That car is only a car. Like, it really can't become anything else. And so the moment the batteries are dead, the car's kind of done, right? Or the moment the wheel sort of breaks, then the car's kind of garbage. It's done. But if you have, a really cool wooden block, this wooden block can become a car, it can become a helicopter, a boat, a train. All kinds of creative ideas come out of these open-ended toys. And so I'll talk more about that another time if I see your interest in terms of encouraging children's imagination with toys and encouraging their creative aspects. But for now, we're not placing any judgment on the red, blue, plasticky toy. We're gonna let that be if that's where you're at, and that's totally, totally fine. None of this is a linear process, because also while I was very strict on those holistic ways of considering media and considering the kinds of images I was bringing into my home for my girls, they've also grown up and life has changed. They have 2 homes. There's in-laws. There's, family from one side, family from another side. There's external influences that I can't control. And so if you look at my kids' room, you'll see a lot of these beautiful open-ended toys and the naturally made dolls and the handmade crocheted little toys and felted birds and fairies. But then you'll also see a collection of Disney World princesses and plastic bunnies and plastic tree houses and all these things that once upon a time I didn't really want at all. But as time has evolved, as time has come, I've evolved and just become more flexible as well. So here I'm just being vulnerable and sharing with you that though I was very strict once upon a time about these things, I've definitely become a lot more flexible, and it seems to me that that has been a gift for my clients to share this with them as well, because most people want to have some level of flexibility with the way that they live, and that's totally amazing and great. So usually the first issue people have with how to decorate with their kids' toys is they want to have a nice looking home, right? Just like when I was having my dream home and I was, conspiring to come up with ideas on how to involve these toys into my everyday without me despising the look of them. Most of us want to have, a sort of elegant, sophisticated style, or at least nice and clean. Most of us just want it to look good, right? We talk a lot about welcoming is a word I hear a lot from my clients. They want to have a welcoming space. They also want it to look grown up, because it's easy to feel like you're being ran over by kids, right? It's like they just attacked your house and there's nothing in there that looks like it's yours. It all looks like they've overtaken the space. And so keeping that in mind, the first aspect of decorating with these kids' toys is making sure that your main pieces in whatever room the toys will be are sophisticated. And I don't mean expensive. It just means let the main pieces be pieces that you would buy for your house, thinking it's going to be a piece that you're going to be able to grow up with. So an adult piece, that means, if you're having a desk for them, it doesn't have to be a kid's desk. It can be a nice table, a table that you would use for anything else. If you have bookshelves for them, it doesn't have to be, the Star Wars theme bookshelf or the Spider-Man's theme bookshelf. It can just be a regular wooden bookshelf, or an industrial style bookshelf. Whatever style you would get for your own room, for your own house, think of those main big pieces: armoires, bookshelves, beds, nightstands, console tables, even the kids' tables where they play. Make those main pieces more neutral and make those main pieces more grown-up looking. That's a good way to kind of create these canvas where whatever else you bring in has more, it can go into the space without feeling like it's only a kid's space, right? So that would be my first kind of sharing. And I wrote a bunch of notes just to make sure that I remember all the little tips that I have. And so with that, those main pieces, then we'll move into the little things. So making sure that, I don't know if you guys, if whoever's here, which thank you so much for being here, Cuchi, Latia, Diana, Pao, Jessica, welcome. If you saw my sacred altar design video, you'll see that I use a lot of bowls and trays and cake stands and that kind of containers to create an altar. And so it's the same thing for kids' toys or for kids' little stuff or art supplies, crayons. I love using bowls that I would normally decorate with, like wooden bowls or metal bowls or even mason jars. Mason jars are great to keep supplies. So I have like a nice wooden bowl in my dining table next to like my pretty flowers, and in there I keep crayons or colored pencils so that my kids have access to these, while we're sitting at the table, and they look great. I don't have to hide them and put them in a bin and stick them in the closet every time. It's okay for them to be out. I want to make sure that when I create a sacred home and there's children involved, I want to make sure that they feel like they're a part of the entire home and not just isolate their stuff only into the playroom. Now, that being said, I am very specific about what goes where, and this is part of where not being overrun by their kids' toys is, this is the way I handle that, which means everything that they have needs to have a specific home. So the home of the crayons is the wooden bowl on the dining table, right? Of course, the bowl can be moved wherever it's needed, but that means, all the Barbie dolls and all the little fairy stuff, they don't live at the dining table. Sure, they might come to my dining table and they can play with them there, but when it's time to be done playing, the fairies and the Barbie dolls go where they live because we have already assigned a space where they live. So I hope that that's making sense to you guys, and feel free to ask me questions if I've lost you or if you have questions. Just feel free to type them up. I'll keep my eyes out for them. But so that's the first part, is making sure that I use containers that resemble things I would decorate with normally to have their things. I might have a nice metal bowl on my coffee table with their Legos. If your kids like Legos, that's kind of a neat way to still let them feel welcome to play. But, when they're not playing, they're not just thrown around the table. They're actually in that nice container. And so it looks cute. It looks good. So that would be one aspect of it. And then the other aspect is going back into that designating a home. I'm a big lover of that concept because it makes cleanup very easy. It makes aesthetically, you just know where everything goes, and it makes everything flow smoother, but also it creates a lot of respect for children to have reverence for their toys and for the things that they have, as opposed to something I'm not a big lover of is bins. You'll see in every Pinterest and every decorating idea, you'll see these kids' faces with a ton of like plastic bins with containers, and believe me, I've tried it, or plastic bins with lids, sorry. And I've tried it, and you know how they have them like all perfectly labeled and all of that. Great, if that works for you, great. I sure tried it for some time, and then I realized I became a slave to putting the things in the bin that they go, and then became a slave on rewriting the labels. I just didn't really love that for too long. I did try it on, and it didn't really resonate. For some things, of course, you need bins. Art supplies and things that you need to have, organized access to, great. But we're talking about the kids' toys in your home, right? In the living room, in the family room, in their playroom, in their room. I don't love bins. I don't love bins for many different reasons. One is everything starts looking like a store, I just don't like that look. The other aspect of it is that it doesn't bring that concept of treating things with love. It just almost feels like everything's getting thrown in there all the time. So I don't really love that. Instead, what I like is creating these homes for toys so that they're being placed with a lot more respect, and they also feel more welcoming to access them, as opposed to grabbing a bin and dumping everything out to dig for what it is that you're looking for. So if your kids have for example, little toys. My girls love playing with Hatchimals. I don't know if you guys know what that is. They're like tiny little eggs, and they come with like little plasticky animals inside that they hatch out of the eggs. And they have so many of them. They're so annoying. They're so tiny. But we created this, we have like this china cabinet where there's a shelf where all the Hatchimals go, and they get to actually display them and display them as their collection. We did have them in a bin at some point, and I found that they would always get dumped over while they dug for the one little animal they wanted. They leave all the mess there for I don't know how long, and then they finally lose the little one they actually want. So it ends up being in the trash, which I don't want to support, and it ends up being something that I'm really annoyed by and that they're frustrated by. And so creating this shelf where those Hatchimals go is a reverent way of treating them, and it looks cute, it looks nice, and it's coming into a more balanced space, even though it's so colorful, because the china cabinet is a nice big piece that is a grown-up piece, and it's a white wood piece, so it looks really good, it looks really cute. You'll see as you start paying attention to these things, when you see like Pinterest pictures or whatever, you'll start seeing what I'm talking about. You'll start seeing that the main pieces are neutral pieces, and that the main pieces where the toys go are what make the design actually feel more elegant or classic or grown up. The other aspect of decorating with the toys is trying to buy toys that maybe do have a color scheme around, the decoration that you have in your home. And that's not always matchy-matchy. It's not always, even though it might sound ideal for aesthetics, it's not always realistic, because again, there's Spider-Man and there's, all these bright colored toys that most likely you're not gonna be able to match exactly. But the ones that you do have access to that match your decor, then maybe those are the ones that you actually display. And those are the ones that get to be on, maybe on the side table in the living room, there might be a cute stuffed animal there next to the candle that you normally would put there. There might be a cute little, wicker basket where you have the little Hatchimals, and that goes next to your TV, and so your kid has access to playing with them while you're watching TV. I don't know what your lifestyle looks like, but using toys and items that your kids play with that matches your decor makes it a lot more welcoming for you to not feel like you have to clean up all the time, for you to not feel like you have to get rid of the toys when guests are coming over, throw them in a closet or shove them in a bin somewhere. It just makes it feel like, oh, hey, this house looks like there's children here, but it still looks good enough, and it feels welcoming, and it feels clean and organized and not just overrun by stuff. And then the other things that maybe are not so aesthetically appealing, like the Spider-Man or the other things, then maybe that is what you have in a bin and in a container somewhere else. I love using my kids' closet for storing some of the toys that I don't personally want to look at. And this is me being a little selfish, but I'm not neurotic about it, and I'm not judging it. I'm just taking charge of being the leader of how my home feels, right? Because if it was for my kids, I would have Barbies everywhere, especially my little one. And I don't want them. I don't want them everywhere. And I also want to be flexible with that kind of toy, but I also want to encourage her to have other things that are more nourishing for her to also play with, like, the open-ended toys I was talking about, or to have spaces where she can just have quiet time, or where she can have time for reading some books or creating some art. And so it's about balance, and that's where you as a parent need to also take charge of that. Take charge of simplifying the amount of things that they have and creating opportunities or designing opportunities for them to engage into meaningful toy time, meaningful play time, or meaningful activities, because you're setting the space and you're creating invitation for them to play with these things. So having the bowl of crayons on your table with a little cute notepad, that's an invitation for sitting down and making some art. And maybe setting up the Barbies like I do in the closet. I don't just shove them in a bin either. I have like really cute shelves. They're wooden boxes. They're actually wine boxes from Costco. They used to have the like traditional wooden crates. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about. But those wooden crates, I stacked them on the floor because we're in a rental right now. So we don't have like built-in closets, like with like nice California style closets with the shelves. We don't have that right now. And so I made these really cool crates and shelves out of those crates, and then all the Barbies sit really nice and organized on them. And it actually becomes an activity on its own to clean up the Barbies, and my daughter will spend hours getting them dressed, making sure their hair is nice and neat, and then placing them in their shelf, and that's where they live. That's their home. And so then I can just close the closet and know that she has her meaningful playtime with them, but I also don't have to look at them all the time. So that would be another suggestion, is using their closet to store those things that maybe don't go so well with your decor, and then creating invitations for the things that do go better with your decor around the living room. I'm a big fan of creating those spaces in different areas of the home. So, and this changes based on your kid's age, and it also changes based on their interests and their needs. But I remember, like, when my kids were younger, I had a drawer in the kitchen where they had their own cooking toys. And so while I was cooking in the kitchen, they would have access to their plates and their whiskers and their play toys as well. And they loved imitating me do what I was doing. And that's also part of the beautiful, conscious and sacred parenting journey that I've been in is your children imitate you, especially the beginning of their lives, right? From 0 to 7 years old is when they imitate the adult the most. And so being meaningful with that, knowing that they're watching you and that they want to be like you, is a really beautiful space of holding responsibility and accountability for being the best version of yourself when you're around your children, and always, really. But coming back to focus, having that drawer was something I loved doing. And I had Tupperwares in there and all kinds of little containers and cupcake containers and cookie sheets and wooden cookies, and they could just play with that. And then maybe I also had I remember the days when I was breastfeeding, and I would have, like, if I was breastfeeding my baby, my second daughter, and then my older daughter was with me, I'd make sure that I had a really cute basket with some things she could have access to while I sat on the rocking chair to nurse the baby, and then my older daughter could be content by my side doing something while I was nursing the baby, and then I could interact with her, as opposed to her having to wait for me while I had to sit 100 times a day, and me pushing her away or sending her off to play in her room or something like that. You have to be able to make it part of your lifestyle. And so I would have a basket with some crayons, or maybe some beeswax, which is kind of like Play-Doh but less messy, and also has no chemicals and has many other really beautiful properties to it. But it's basically like molding wax. And so I would have that. Maybe I would have some stones. Maybe I would have a cute little doll, something that she could play with next to me. So I always had that cute basket by that chair. In my room, I might have the same thing. I might have a nice little shelf where there's some dolls, or maybe some stuffed animals that are cute white and brown, and something that goes with the style of what I'm going for. And that's out on display. And then in the living room, oh no, you know what? Also, another really cool tip, and I'm gonna be all over the place because that's just how I roll. Another really cool tip is to incorporate the bigger toys into the home. You can have really fun projects of painting these things. So I remember I had a play kitchen for my daughter, and it was this bright fuchsia pink, and I just really didn't like it. It was just not pretty at all, but she loved this thing, and I was just so focused and committed to making it work for both of us. I didn't want to stare at this ugly colored thing, and I didn't want to be so mean and selfish and take it away. So I decided I was going to paint it the same color as my front door. So I painted her kitchen, and she painted it with me, which was really fun on its own, and we painted it a teal color, which was the color of my front door at the time. So that went really well with everything else that I had around my house that was teal. And so it just wasn't an eyesore anymore. It blended right into the space, and she could have her fun with it, and then I didn't feel like I was sacrificing my aesthetics and my stylish decor for her toys. Okay, what else? This is another good one that I talk a lot about during Sacred Interiors Academy when we get into the time of decorating and arranging furniture. And that is scale. Scale is really important because most of the time we have a lot of little knickknacks and little tiny decoration items, and the same with toys, the little toys here and there. But we need to be able to anchor those little things with the bigger pieces, with a bigger scale items. So for example, instead of using tiny little bookshelves for your kids, which are usually kid size, having a bigger piece that's a bookshelf. Using wall space in a way that you don't have a bunch of individual toys. I see a lot of playrooms when I go into people's homes where they have all the toys lined up by the wall, and like on the floor, and then you have all this like empty space above the wall. So it's important to use the vertical space. So that's why I love built-ins and bookshelves and bookcases, but grand. Think of them as big pieces that fit the room, and then use the little toys on the shelves. And so it looks really nice and neat. And that's where you can use containers that are aesthetically pleasing to you to hold these pieces. If you saw like the picture I shared on the live on the Facebook group earlier, you know, there's the big white built-in, and then we have baskets that are also all white. They could be whatever color you want, but neutrals are helpful because it tones down all these bright kid toy colors. You don't want your house to look like Toys R Us. Most of us, if you're into design in one way or another, you just don't. You just don't want it to look like it. So to help with that, we need to be able to have large pieces to anchor the space and neutral colors to soften the brightness of the toys that the kids have. Another really good storage solution is spice racks. IKEA has really cool spice racks that you can paint in whatever color you want. I love painting kids storing areas or like shelves or bookcases in metal colors, like metallic colors, if that's something that goes with your home. I used to have like some copper accents in my home, and so I would paint their bookshelves in a copper color, or silver and gold are something that I use all the time. So sometimes I'll paint some of their pieces gold and silver. My daughter's desk right now is a mirror silver. It's like a vanity table. It's something that you would normally use in an adult room for a vanity. And so it's like a mirrored piece. But this is her desk where she does her schoolwork. And so that's a way to just, incorporate it with more aesthetic into her space. And then another really neat way to, when you do have things that do have to go on bins and containers, the containers you choose are very important. So instead of having those plastic containers with lids on them, using the wicker baskets, using crocheted baskets, or using those wooden crates. What else? They have some really cool fabric containers now too at like Home Goods in neutral colors. Usually like in the laundry sections, they have some really cool baskets, like canvas baskets and that sort of a thing. And then you can put some things in there, whatever it is that you want to store. And I love throwing a pillow on top of that, or maybe a throw on it, like a blanket or a throw on it that you would on your sofa or a chair, and it kind of covers it. And so I can put it next to my sofa, or I can put it underneath my china cabinet in my living room or my dining room. And so the kids just, grab it, take the throw off the pillow, grab whatever toys, and then when it's clean up, they put it back in, and then I cover it with a pillow and a blanket. It's very simple, but it no longer looks like it's kid stuff. It just looks like it's part of my decor. It's something practical. And, I use the pillow for laying down on the floor, maybe if I'm hanging out with them and they're making art or whatever. So I just feel like the times where, having the kids only play in this designated area are long gone, just to make our lifestyle more efficient, also to make kids feel more welcomed in the space, but also the times where you feel like you've gotten kicked out of your house because it's all about them. I feel it's also something that shouldn't be a part of how we live anymore, because you don't have to sacrifice your own needs and desires just for that either. It's just a balance. It's a balance of being truthful to yourself, but also, of course, understanding that they're only little for so long and that they need to be engaging in these creative processes, and they need to be playing. Playing is the work of the children, and it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. I'm trying to think about what else I wanted to share with you. And then also the other aspect of making it work with you is making sure that you don't go crazy with choosing themes. This is something that, again, when it comes to sophisticated aesthetics and when it comes to design, the parent has to put their foot down at some, in some part of the whole deal. So if you have someone that wants Star Wars stuff, for example, well, you might not want to have like Star Wars cover, Star Wars cushion, Star Wars sheets, Star Wars headboards, Star Wars posters on the wall, Star Wars everything. It doesn't work. And even if you're a grown up as a designer, I would suggest, if there's anything you like, don't go crazy with just that one thing. Like, don't make everything flowers everywhere, That's just a tip that I can share with you. So honoring that maybe they do like Star Wars, great, but so then you keep the big pieces neutral, the bed, the sheets, the quilt or the duvet or whatever it is, and then you might use an accent pillow with a Star Wars motif on it. Because also realize that they're going to grow out of these interests, right? They're going to grow out of wanting to be surrounded by this, and then you're now spending money again, then you're spending time creating new ideas on how to decorate again, and then also you're wasting stuff, and so it's not necessary, which is why I love using neutrals and classic pieces that you can grow with, that your kids can grow with, and then just using little accents here and there to decorate with themes if that's the case. And then the other aspect of these decorating with toys is also having spaces where you simply decide this isn't gonna be here long term. So if they do bring out all these other colorful things and all these other plasticky things that you don't want to be around your design all the time, then you also create boundaries for that, right? And so maybe that's the things that go in the closet, and then the other things that flow with your design a little bit more are the ones that stay. So I hope that's super helpful for you guys. Let me know if you need any help with any specific questions. As always, if you want to just send me a picture of what you have and ask for feedback or insights on one specific room, definitely send them my way. I'm happy to answer those questions. I know some of you have done that with the altars, and I love seeing what you guys create. Be flexible with what you have, work with what you have, but definitely keep that mentality of less is more, especially when it comes to kids' toys. Create a space where your kids can have more reverence for what they own, more gratitude for the things that they own so that they can treat them well. It's a really beautiful, valuable lesson to teach early on. And use neutrals as your friend. Neutrals are your friend when it comes to kids' toys, so that you can tone down the brightness of the red, blues, and yellows, if that's the color that predominates. And then the other thing that I really like, that I have seen a lot in different inspirational images, etc., is color coding stuff. Like, that just feels pleasing to the eye and exciting, and kids really are drawn to it. So that's something I do a lot with, like, bookshelves and stuff, and color coding books. It's really fun. But you could also do the same with toys. So if you have like a big built-in space, and you do want to embrace the brightness of the color, which I hope I'm not coming across as don't embrace it. Definitely embrace it. It just has to be done tastefully. So a way to embrace that is using the shelves where you might display things and assigning a specific color to each shelf. So maybe all the kids' toys that are yellow will go in this one, and then all the red ones will go here, and all the blue ones go here. And it's kind of fun. It's a fun activity to do with the children, and it's a fun activity for them to also tidy up. It's a way to make it playful. It's a way for you to interact with them. It's also a good way for dads to get involved. For some reason, dads really function with that logical side. This is kind of like a whispering voice now. But it's fun to just do it by yellow. Okay, we're just picking up the yellow stuff right now, or we're just picking up the red stuff right now. And then maybe you have a miscellaneous one where it's kind of like you can't really decide if this is yellow, green, or blue or whatever, and then that's where that goes. And when you step back and you look at the shelf, it looks really fun and it looks really creative, and kids really feel connected to that, and adults too. So that would be another fun way to sort your stuff and select a space for them to have a home in. So yeah, let me know if you have any questions or if you need any help with that. I'm super happy to help. If you haven't heard me share enough about simplicity parenting, I highly recommend that you read that book. It is not about design, but it is about simplifying your kid's life. And there's a part of that concept that means simplify your kid's space. So definitely look into that. There are also simplicity parenting coaches out there that can actually come to your home and help you, help you simplify your schedule, simplify your rhythm, or create a rhythm if you don't have one. That's just something I'm sharing because it came to my heart and something I really value and work with a lot. And so, yeah, check it out. Simplicity Parenting by Kim John Ping. I hope you guys are doing great. Hope you have a great day. Let me know if you have any questions. Sat down.